Thank you for joining me today to talk to Antti Tolvanen from our partner Etteplan to talk cybersecurity and particularly his thoughts on the recent Enisa 2021 Cybersecurity Certification Conference. My name is Sally Atkinson and I'm Senior Market Development Manager at Pelion, working with our ecosystem partners across all of our regions. Antti, can I ask you to start by introducing yourself and Etteplan and maybe also telling us why cybersecurity is so important?
Well, thank you so much, Sally. I'm really privileged to be here online with Pelion. So I'm working in sales at Etteplan at our software and embedded solutions business. We're around 600-700 developers and business managers, and we're focused in, as I said, on embedded devices, mainly working with industrial companies, but also a bit of consumer industries. We're in Finland, Sweden, Poland, Denmark, also recently started up in China. We've been working with Pelion and ARM for a very long time, first with the Embed as an ecosystem partner, and then lately also as the Pelion ecosystem partner, and been visiting a lot of customers together with the Pelion team also.
Of course, yeah, thank you. So can you tell us a little bit about the Enisa Cybersecurity Certification Conference that's just taken place in February?
Yes, this was one of the most interesting conferences that I've been to in a, how to say, cybersecurity perspective. So most of you guys know that the regulation around cybersecurity is tightening, and there has been a EU Cybersecurity Act was adopted in 2019. But recently then, in end of 2020, there happened so much. I have been looking into the regulations for about 2 years, following up what's happening that impacts embedded devices, and basically everything was rewritten in December. So in December, EU published a cloud certification scheme recommendation. So that which basically affects cloud service providers, cloud platforms, and cloud applications. It's a voluntary certification scheme in Europe, and the intent is it stays sort of voluntary unless made mandatory by EU law. So that was a big thing, but concurrently also EU presented the Network and Information Security Directive 2, so-called NIS2 proposal. And what was very interesting here is that the scope of essential operators, or basic critical infrastructure, was expanded to essential entities and important entities, and important entities include all manufacturing of electronic devices. So basically all of Pelion's customer base that need to have devices in the field that need to be updated. And this is a really big change, because also in this NIS2 proposal, they are stating that these kind of important and essential entities should put into place security requirements in the purchase, development, and maintenance of information systems and embedded devices, and systems to update the device in the field. Those are information systems. So basically all the companies that manufacture devices look like they are going to be regulated on a membership, EU member state level. So that was really interesting, and they also emphasized the use of cybersecurity schemes. So after this, it was very interesting to kind of hear what the EU has planned for the next steps in cybersecurity standardization and certification. So in the beginning of February, there was a 3-day conference that had 2,300 enrolled people according to EU. So Enisa's own information, huge attendance, and there was some really important points. So maybe the first thing is that the EU is really driving horizontal security standardization and regulation also. And the first step of that will be the adaptation of the delegated acts in radio equipment directive. So all wirelessly connected devices will in EU have some kind of baseline of technical security requirements. And those people that were presenting were participating in this standardization teams that are working on these standards. And at this point, they are actually evaluating technical security requirements from IEC 6244342, technical requirements for industrial control systems for use in this horizontal regulation, and they're assessing one by one the technical requirements related to how they are testable, so that they are very objectively verifiable by the accredited body that is checking the compliance with radio equipment directive. So that is something, and for all suppliers that are making companies that are producing radio devices, it's really worth to take a look at these requirements. Probably there's a big number of requirements in this 6244342 standard that are in the consumer IoT standard or in, let's say, the NIST security baseline, but are really worth to familiarize with that standard. So that was kind of the first step of how to say horizontal regulation in EU, and it was so interesting when the first presenter told the audience what's going to happen with radio equipment directive, and ended with a slide that said that the implementation horizontal via the new legislative framework. That's basically the framework for putting a CE marking on a device. And then there was a number of other presentations, and in the end of the first session, there was a gentleman presenting the idea how to implement totally horizontal cybersecurity regulation of all connected devices, basically wireless and how to say wired devices, and basically it could go via two ways, either via the cybersecurity certification schemes, or then by kind of having a harmonized European standard for security that would need to be fulfilled in order to put a CE marking on the device. So this was really a big thing, and they were envisioning this around, it could be time-wise possible 27 and 28. And this was, you know, the first time I heard about totally horizontal regulation. So big news, and it's really worth to go check out all the presentation at Enisa's site, so you get the details.
Fantastic, fantastic. And can you maybe speak a little bit more about the CSA certification schemes for IT, OT, and consumer IoT?
Yes. So the Cybersecurity Act that was adopted by EU Commission in 2019 states that that Enisa should kind of support the development of a single market of IoT devices or equipment in Europe, and kind of cybersecurity certification schemes would be one of the tools to enable this internal market. Nowadays, there are country-specific schemes, like in the UK, dedicated schemes for electricity meters that cost quite a lot. And so, for a company to really enter the European market, and so it would be really beneficial to just have one certification scheme. So after that, Enisa with stakeholders have been preparing several certification schemes, and the ones that have been kind of gotten the further start, I would say EU common criteria, that's basic for IT devices like firewalls and smart cards, which require very high level of security. And then also, which I mentioned earlier, was this cloud services certification scheme. Both of these, I expect that they will be formally published during this spring. That's EU's plans. And then EU needs by spring 2023 assess will this become mandatory in EU. In addition to these two, there are several other schemes under development. There are indications that the consumer IoT ETSI standard 303645 might become some kind of basis for a consumer IoT certification scheme. I haven't yet heard that the official request has arrived to Enisa to prepare this scheme. Well, the one that is for certainly going is 5G. You've all heard the big debate about the security of 5G equipment supply chain, and that is definitely turning into a certification scheme. EU has already made risk analysis, developed the toolbox, and the next phase is a certification scheme, which I would expect that becomes mandatory quite quickly. You can find information that also about in the conference presentations. Then the fourth one that I've seen indications about is industrial control systems, components, so embedded devices that are used, how to say, in operational technology setting. And industrial settings, cybersecurity incident, it's not so much about losing the confidentiality of the equipment, but usually when these devices then fail, there's financial loss, there's physical damage to equipment and process. There can be environmental damage or health risks also, that people can be injured. And this kind of industrial control systems certification scheme would be addressing that. So there's our first draft or recommendation. I would say draft was published in September 2020, and I don't really know the next steps about that. In the certification conference, I heard that they're just starting the development of an operational technology cybersecurity standard that would aim to become a kind of harmonized European standard, and probably that would maybe be a part of this kind of CE marking then in the end. But let's see how it goes. Is there coming certification scheme, or is there coming kind of directly a harmonized European standard for operational technology? So those are kind of the main ones, and then the following ones have also been identified. There was a threat model done for artificial intelligence applications, and now they're discussing to start the certification scheme development for artificial intelligence applications also. So those are basically the certification schemes that are being developed, and maybe going back to the operational technology, there are also several industries where industry players have together agreed on a certain mandatory security standards that need to be followed. Automotive, railroad, as good examples.
Of course, of course. Fantastic. So, Antti, can you maybe take us through the main takeaways from the conference for device manufacturers, maybe considering how Pelion and Etteplan can help support this?
Yes. So for device manufacturers, is that it's really clear if a wireless device, there will be a security baseline within a few years via the radio equipment directive. So whatever devices you're developing right now, in order to ensure that they have a long life on the market, please make sure that at least the technical requirements are already implemented, because security is very dependent on what components you have in the hardware. You know, the maximum security level is very much defined by the hardware selections and also the software selections that you make. So that's one important thing to have, that there will be regulation. And then, of course, in the longer run also, depending, are you working in a consumer environment or an operational technology environment, notice that you will be kind of in the near future, you need to develop your product development process to have secure development as part of the development, and how to maintain. And well, then now how can then Etteplan and Pelion support? So at Etteplan, we have taken the steps and we have started implementing secure development process according to IAC 6244341. So hopefully in the near future, we'll have a certified secure development process. We are also implementing the technical requirements of 6244342 in our development project, so we can support our customers. And then we're cooperating with Pelion in these projects in order to kind of bring off-the-shelf cybersecure solution for keeping the software up to date and the devices secure all the way over the life cycle, starting with the provisioning of the software in the factory and out in the field, and keeping them updated then in their uses. So we're doing our part. Pelion is doing their part also to support you in meeting these process and technical requirements that EU seems to be imposing on us in years also. And also to keep in mind, also maybe not from the conference, but in US also, they're going to be regulating all the cybersecurity of all the IoT devices that the federal government is buying, and that becomes effective in early 23. So concurrently, as probably RED will become effective in EU, in the US, if you want to do business with federal government, you're quite in a hurry now to start developing compliant products.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you so much, Antti, for sharing your insights with us today. This is incredibly valuable information for anyone that's considering their IoT deployments, and particularly the security, which is going to need to be embedded in these as standard in the future. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sally, and thank you, everybody. It was a great privilege to be here with you.